Before we begin, make sure you're somewhere quiet. Turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. Because the stories you're about to hear aren't just scary. These are the kinds of experiences people don't talk about. If you enjoy true horror stories, unsettling encounters, and disturbing events that happen to real people, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin. I grew up hunting with my father in rural Montana. Not the tourist kind of hunting, I mean real hunting. Cold mornings. Long hikes. No cell service. No mistakes allowed. My dad taught me early that the woods don't forgive arrogance. If you treat them like a playground, they will eventually kill you. By the time I was 23, I was confident enough to hunt alone. That confidence almost got me killed. This happened in late October of 2018, during elk season. I had taken a week off work and planned a solo trip deep into a section of forest that barely saw foot traffic. No marked trails, no cabins, no nearby camps. I wanted silence. I parked my truck at a logging road just before sunrise and hiked in for almost 4 hours. By the time I set up my small camp, the sun was already dipping behind the trees. Everything felt perfect, quiet, isolated, untouched. That night, I heard footsteps outside my tent. Not heavy. Not rushed. Slow. Measured. At first, I thought it was an animal circling, maybe a curious deer or even a bear. But animals don't walk like that. Animals don't pause every few steps. Animals don't stop directly behind your tent and just stand there. I held my breath, listening. No sniffing. No movement. Just the sound of someone shifting their weight in the dirt. After nearly a minute, the footsteps moved away. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I found footprints around my camp. Boot prints. Large. Deep. And deliberate. Whoever it was had walked a full circle around my tent, stopping at the zipper. There were no tracks leading deeper into the woods, only the ones approaching from the tree line and leaving the same way. I told myself it was another hunter passing through, though I hadn't seen a single truck for miles. That day, I tracked an elk for several hours, following broken branches and disturbed ground. Around mid-afternoon, I stopped cold. The tracks were no longer elk tracks. They were human. Fresh boot prints, cutting directly across the trail I'd been following. At first, I was annoyed. Hunters hate crossing trails, it spooks animals and ruins hours of work. But then I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. The footprints were facing me. Someone had walked ahead of me, stopped, and turned around. As if they'd been waiting. I slowly scanned the trees, rifle raised, heart hammering. Nothing. No movement. No sound. Just wind through dead leaves. I backed away and decided to head back toward camp. That's when I heard a rifle shot. It came from behind me. Too close. I dropped instinctively, adrenaline flooding my body. The shot hadn't been aimed at an animal. It had been a warning. Someone knew exactly where I was. I crawled through brush until I reached a small ridge and waited. Minutes passed. Then footsteps. Crunching leaves. Slow and confident. I peeked through the scope. I saw him. A man in camo that didn't match any hunting brand I recognized. His clothes were dirty, torn in places, and stained dark with old blood. He wasn't carrying a pack. Just a rifle and a knife strapped to his thigh. He wasn't scanning for animals. He was scanning for me. My breathing went shallow. I realized then that I wasn't being followed. I was being hunted. I waited until he passed before moving, retreating carefully, silently. I changed direction twice, looping wide, hoping to lose him. By the time I reached my camp, the sun was already setting. Something was wrong immediately. My tent was open. Everything inside had been moved. My sleeping bag laid flat. My gear lined up neatly. And right in the center, placed carefully on top of my backpack, was a strip of raw elk meat. Fresh. Still warm. I heard a voice behind me. "You walk loud." I spun, rifle up. He stood maybe 15 feet away, completely calm. No aggression. No fear. Just a blank, unreadable expression. "You crossed my line," he said. "That's rude." I shouted for him to back away. He didn't move. "I don't take animals anymore," he continued. "They don't understand the game." My stomach dropped. "You do," he said, smiling slightly. I fired into the dirt at his feet. He didn't flinch. Instead, he raised his rifle and fired past my head, the round cracking a tree behind me. "Next one isn't a warning," he said. I ran. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I crashed through brush, tore my hands open, slid down slopes without caring how badly I was hurt. Behind me, I heard him laughing. Laughing. Not chasing. Just enjoying it. Night fell fast. I reached my truck well after dark, blooded, shaking, barely functional. As I unlocked the door, something caught my eye on the windshield. A handprint. Bloody. Pressed from the outside. Under the wiper blade was a note, written on a torn piece of map. "You're fast. That's good. Come back next season." I never did. 2 months later, I read a news article about a missing hunter found partially buried in that same forest. No weapon. No gear. Just deep knife wounds and signs of prolonged pursuit. The article mentioned something strange. Authorities found multiple sets of footprints around the body. All belonging to the victim. As if he'd been running in circles. I've been hunting since I was a kid. My dad raised me on early mornings, frost-covered boots, and the kind of silence that only exists deep in the woods. By the time this happened, I was 27 and had spent more nights alone in the forest than I could count. That's why what happened in November of 2021 still doesn't make sense to me. I was hunting alone in a remote stretch of public land several hours north of my town. It wasn't a popular area, no cabins, no campsites, barely even a trail. Just miles of dense forest, uneven terrain, and thick undergrowth. The kind of place where sound doesn't travel right, and your instincts feel sharper whether you want them to or not. I arrived before sunrise and hiked nearly 2 miles in, setting up near a natural clearing I'd scouted earlier in the season. The air was cold enough that every breath burned. No wind. No birds. No movement. Perfect conditions. Around 9 a.m., I heard it. A single rifle shot. It echoed from somewhere far off to my left. That immediately put me on edge. Hunters in this area were rare, and the sound came from deeper in the woods than anyone usually went. Still, I brushed it off. Maybe someone else had the same idea I did. I stayed put. About 15 minutes later, I heard another shot. Same direction. Same distance. But something was off. The sound didn't echo the way it should have. It was flatter. Duller. Almost like it had been swallowed by the trees before it could travel. I stood up and scanned the forest. Nothing. Then my radio crackled. I froze. I wasn't hunting with anyone. The radio was strictly for emergencies, no one else should have been on my channel. Static filled my ear for a few seconds, then stopped. Silence. I whispered, "Hello?" No response. I chalked it up to interference, but the uneasy feeling didn't go away. Around noon, I decided to move deeper in, hoping to get away from whoever else was out there. That's when things started getting wrong. As I walked, I noticed footprints. Not deer. Not human boots. Bare footprints. Large ones. pressed deep into the damp soil, like whoever made them was heavy. Too heavy. They led parallel to me, never crossing my path, just matching my direction. I told myself it was old. That it didn't mean anything. Then I heard another rifle shot. This one was close. Too close. I spun toward the sound and instinctively dropped to a knee. Nothing. No movement. No voices. No rustling. Just trees. I raised my rifle and fired a single round into the air, not at anything, just to announce my presence. The sound cracked through the woods. Then something answered. Not another gunshot. A sound. A deep, hollow imitation of the gunshot. Like someone trying to recreate the noise with their mouth. It came from directly ahead of me. My blood ran cold. I whispered, "That's not funny." No response. Then I heard footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Heavy. They weren't trying to hide. I backed up, keeping my rifle raised, scanning between the trees. "Who's there?" I shouted. The footsteps stopped. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then a voice spoke. But it wasn't right. It sounded like a person who had learned English by listening, not speaking. "Did you hit anything?" Each word was spaced out. Flat. Emotionless. I couldn't see anyone. "Show yourself," I said. Branches creaked. Something moved behind a thick cluster of trees about 30 yards away. And then it stepped out. It was tall. Too tall. Its proportions were wrong, arms hanging too long, shoulders hunched forward, head tilted slightly like it was curious. Its skin looked pale and stretched tight. And its face. It didn't look finished. Like someone had tried to sculpt a human face and stopped halfway through. The eyes were there, dark and reflective, but the mouth barely moved when it spoke. "You missed." I backed away slowly. "Stay where you are," I said, my voice shaking. It tilted its head further. I heard, "Your shot." I heard, "You." I turned and ran. I didn't care about noise. I didn't care about direction. I just ran. Branches tore at my jacket. My lungs burned. My boots slipped in the mud. Behind me, I heard something running too. But not crashing. Not stumbling. Keeping pace. Matching my speed. I burst into a small clearing and nearly tripped over something on the ground. A deer. Dead. But not from a bullet. Its body was twisted unnaturally, neck bent backward, eyes wide open like it had died in terror. And carved into its chest, deep into the flesh, were words. "You shoot. We answer." I didn't look back again. I ran until my legs gave out, until I reached my truck and slammed the door shut. As I sped down the dirt road, my radio crackled one last time. Static. Then the same voice, calm and empty. "Next time, aim better." I sold my rifle 3 weeks later. I haven't hunted since. And sometimes, when I hear gunshots echoing in the distance during hunting season, I wonder, who's actually answering them now? I grew up hunting in northern Michigan. Not casually, seriously. My father taught me everything: how to track, how to stay quiet, how to read the woods like a second language. By the time I was 18, I could tell the difference between a buck's footsteps and a man's just by how the leaves broke. That's why what happened in November of 2021 still doesn't make sense to me. I was 24 and hunting alone on public land near the Manistee National Forest. Rifle season had just opened, and I decided to go deeper than usual, nearly 3 miles from the nearest access road. No cell service, no cabins nearby, just thick woods and silence. I set up before sunrise in a small clearing surrounded by pines. The cold cut straight through my gloves, but it was the good kind of cold, the kind that keeps you alert. Around 7:30 a.m., I used a deer call. Just once. A soft, short bleat. I waited. Nothing. 10 minutes later, I tried again. That's when something answered. It wasn't a deer. The sound came from deep in the woods to my left. It was too loud. Too long. And wrong in a way I can't fully explain. It was like someone trying to imitate a deer, but stretching the sound, holding it too long, dragging it out until it stopped sounding natural. My stomach tightened instantly. I told myself it was another hunter messing around. It happens. People try to scare each other sometimes. Still, I didn't answer back. A few minutes passed. Then I heard footsteps. Heavy ones. Not cautious. Not slow. Just steady. Crunching through leaves without any attempt to hide. They were coming straight toward me. I stood up slightly to get a better view, keeping my rifle ready. That's when I saw movement between the trees. A man stepped into view. At least, I thought it was a man. He was tall, taller than me, and I'm over 6 feet. He wore hunting gear, but it was wrong. The clothes looked decades old. Canvas jacket, no blaze orange, boots that looked worn smooth. His rifle hung loosely in his hands, pointed at the ground. But his face? His face was pale. Too pale. And his eyes were wide open, unblinking, fixed directly on me. He smiled. I raised my rifle slightly, not aiming, just enough to make my position clear. "Hey," I called out. "You need to wear orange out here." He didn't respond. He took another step forward. "Season just opened," I said louder. "You're gonna get shot." That's when he lifted his head and made the sound again. That stretched, broken deer call. But this time, it came from his mouth. I froze. My brain screamed at me to run, but my body wouldn't move. The sound was wrong up close, wet, strained, like it hurt him to make it. When it stopped, the woods went dead quiet. No birds. No wind. Then he spoke. "You answered," he said. His voice didn't match his face. It sounded layered. Like more than one voice trying to use the same throat. "I didn't," I said. He tilted his head slightly, studying me. "Yes," he said calmly. "You did." I backed up slowly, keeping my rifle between us. "I'm leaving," I said. "You should too." He smiled wider. "I've been waiting a long time," he said. They don't usually answer. That's when I noticed his hands. They were shaking. Not from cold, from effort. Like he was holding himself still on purpose. Behind him, something moved. At first, I thought it was another hunter. Then I realized it was following his movements. Mirroring him. A second shape stepped out from behind a tree. Same height. Same clothes. Same face. They stood side by side. Both smiling at me. One of them raised its rifle. Not aiming. Just holding it, like it didn't know how it worked. I turned and ran. I didn't care about noise or direction. I crashed through brush, branches whipping my face, lungs burning. Behind me, I heard footsteps, but they weren't running. They were walking. Calm. Even-paced. Confident. No matter how fast I went, they stayed the same distance behind me. I burst into another clearing and nearly tripped over something on the ground. A hunting blind. Collapsed. Inside it was a backpack. Open. Fresh blood soaked into the leaves beside it. And next to the bag was a deer call. The same kind I was using. That's when the footsteps stopped. I turned around slowly. Both of them stood at the edge of the clearing. One spoke. "You found him," it said. The other tilted its head. He answered too. I raised my rifle and fired into the dirt between us. The sound cracked through the woods. They didn't flinch. They didn't blink. They just stepped backward, together, melting into the trees like shadows. I didn't stop running until I hit the access road. I made it back to my truck shaking, hands numb, barely able to breathe. Later that day, I told a conservation officer what happened. He listened quietly, then asked me something strange. Did they sound human when they talked? I asked him what he meant. He hesitated, then said, because we've had reports. A man went missing in that area the week before. Experienced hunter. No body found. Just his gear. And a deer call. I don't hunt with calls anymore. And when I'm in the woods now, I don't answer sounds I don't understand. Because sometimes something is listening. And sometimes it answers back.